Episode 5 of Heated Rivalry, the most devastating part of Shane Hollander getting injured on the ice isn't simply that Ilya Rozanov might lose him. It's the sudden realization that Ilya has that when Shane could be injured or even worse, the world would give Ilya no recognized right to console or even grieve him. No place with the family. No public claim on the man he loves. Ilya would still be just the rival. A competitor. And maybe even to some an enemy. He would be grieving the most important person in his life while pretending that he had lost nearly nothing. And I think that's the truth that finally breaks Ilya open. Because Shane's injury doesn't create all of Ilya's pain. It exposes everything he was already carrying. The grief he just brought home from Russia after his dad died. The identity he uses as camouflage. The love he can only express in private. And the realization that the walls keeping him safe could eventually leave him completely alone. And to understand why this hospital scene between Shane and Ilya hits so hard, we have to understand what those walls were protecting Ilya from in the first place. Shane and Ilya both hide. They just do it in completely different ways. Shane hides by becoming perfect. Ilya hides by becoming excessive. Shane is disciplined, controlled, and he's marketable. To all the sponsors. He becomes the version of himself that everyone knows how to reward. Ilya goes the other direction. He's loud, he's cocky, he's sexual, unpredictable. And I think he gives people so much performance that they never stop to ask what might be hiding underneath. That doesn't make him free. It makes him hiding loud enough to be mistaken for freedom. If Shane disappears into what people expect, Ilya overwhelms people before they can look too closely. And it works. Both sides. People see the confidence, and in Ilya they see the arrogance. They see the Russian superstar who doesn't seem to care what anyone thinks. But underneath that performance is someone who has learned that being fully known may not even be safe. And by episode 5, that performance is carrying more weight than it was ever built to hold. Ilya isn't dealing with one loss. He's carrying years of them. His mother, his father, the fracture between his brother, the guilt of leaving his home country, the guilt of succeeding after he left, the loneliness of being the one who escaped, and a painful realization that escaping a place doesn't automatically free you from what happened there. Grief compounds. The pain you can't process doesn't just disappear. It attaches itself to the next pain, and then the next one, until you're no longer reacting only to what just happened. You're reacting to everything that has ever happened all at once. That's the Ilya who calls Shane after his father's funeral. Not the loud version. Not the reckless version. Not the version who can flirt his way around the truth. He's exhausted. And he's stripped down. And the mask doesn't have enough energy left to stay in place. Connor's story plays this almost entirely through restraint. Ilya isn't delivering a dramatic declaration. He looks like someone who has become too exhausted to keep carrying the truth alone. In that moment, Shane just tells him to talk. Say whatever's in his head. And say it in Russian if that makes it easier. Shane won't understand the words, but maybe speaking them will just help. So Ilya does. He finally said what he's been carrying, that Shane is the one person in his life who feels real, that all he wants is Shane, and that it's always been Shane, that he's completely in love with him, and he has no idea what to do with it. Shane can't understand him, and that may be one of the most painful details of their entire story. Ilya can finally tell the complete truth, only because the person that he's speaking to can't receive it. He says it in the language of his home because grief has pulled him back to the oldest part of himself. But he still needs the protection of not being understood. He finally allowed the truth to leave his mouth, but he still hasn't allowed it to become part of his life. Grief doesn't only make you miss the person you lost. It makes everyone you love feel suddenly fragile. And that's where Ilya is emotionally. When Shane goes down on the ice, it's one moment Shane is playing. The next, he goes down hard, and Ilya's right there, but he has to stay in his character. I think that's the cruelest part. He has to sit inside that fear and not let it show. He can't rush toward him. He can't demand answers. He has to perform indifference while the person he loves is being taken away. He isn't only afraid, he's trapped inside that performance of not being afraid. Think about what that requires. The person who feels like home is being carried away, and Ilya has to behave like an opponent just watching some unfortunate injury. That isn't just secrecy. It's being forced to deny the truth at the exact moment the truth matters the most. And when Ilya gets to the hospital, it gets worse, because Shane is soft with him immediately. He's injured, medicated, and vulnerable. The moment he recognizes Ilya, his whole face softens. Hudson Williams gives that one word so much unguarded warmth. Shane isn't explaining what Ilya means to him. For one small moment, his face does it for him. No armor, no rivalry, no performance. It's just relief. Ilya has to stand there holding together every emotion he wasn't allowed to show earlier. Buried his father. He just returned from Russia, carrying all the grief, all the anger, all the guilt, and the painful memories. And he just confessed his love in words that Shane couldn't even understand. And now Shane is lying in front of him hurt. Of course, something has to break open. Because the injury forces Ilya to imagine something that he spent years avoiding. What if Shane hadn't been okay? What if that injury had taken him away? Where would Ilya have been allowed to stand? What would he have been allowed to say? Who in the world would have recognized the size of his loss? There'd be no official place for his pain. No recognized relationship. No legitimate claim to it. No seat beside the bed as the person who matters the most. He'd just be some secret mourner. A stranger to the whole world. And a rival on paper. And the grief would be real. The world would recognize that Shane was gone. But it wouldn't recognize what Ilya had lost. That's what the hospital scene reveals. Ilya hasn't just built a private relationship. He's built a life in which the person he loves most could disappear, and no one would understand why it destroyed him. The emotional walls he built were supposed to protect him. But now he finally sees it's created a prison. And that's why Shane's invitation to the cottage matters so much. It isn't simply an invitation to visit. The cottage is the first place their love begins to look like a life. Something ordinary, something quiet, something that doesn't exist only in hotel rooms or hidden phone calls and a few stolen moments. The hospital shows Ilya the future secrecy has built for him. The cottage offers the first glimpse of a different one. A life where they might eat together, wake up together, sit in the same room without checking to see who could see them. A life where love isn't only something they feel, it's something they're allowed to live. And Ilya's hesitation is heartbreaking because you can see both truths inside of it. It's, I want this, but I'm terrified to even believe that I can have it. And I think this is one reason Heated Rivalry reaches so far beyond Shane and Ilya. Because most people understand what it means to build a wall for protection. Maybe your wall isn't hiding a relationship. Maybe it's just the version of yourself your family understands best. The career everyone praises, even though you no longer recognize yourself inside of it. The marriage you stayed in because leaving felt more frightening than disappearing. The truth you keep editing because you're still trying to determine whether people around you are safe enough to hear it. I know what it feels like to measure the temperature of a room before deciding how much of yourself can enter that room. To wonder whether being fully seen will bring a genuine connection or punishment just for entering. To become so practiced at adjusting yourself that the adjustment starts to feel like your personality. That kind of protection can save you for a while. But eventually you have to ask what it's costing you. Because a wall can protect your life. And then without you noticing it, it can become the thing preventing you from living that life. And that's what Shane's injury gives to Ilya. Not closure, not instant courage, but clarity. For one terrifying moment, he sees what all the hiding could eventually cost him. Not only the possibility of losing Shane, but the possibility of losing him without ever being allowed to say what Shane truly meant to him. And once Ilya sees that clearly, the walls can't feel quite as safe as they did before. Because one day, the prison starts costing more than the truth. And that's when the walls begin to come down. Not because the fear disappears, but because something on the other side of that wall finally matters more. So, Ilya Rozanov, tear down those walls.